Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Suthar. I'm one of the senior investment managers here at Sharewise, and we're here this morning with Grant Coyle. Now, Grant is the current MD of Latitude 66. Now, Grant's been kind enough to dedicate his time and expertise this morning to give us a brief presentation updating us on how Latitude's tracking at the moment. And then we're going to open the floor to Q&A as usual. So participants, if you'd like to submit any questions for me to ask to Grant after the presentation, please do submit them through using the Q&A function on Zoom. Grant, thank you very much for your time this morning, mate. It's all yours.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I'll just get the presentation up. Great, hopefully you can all see that. So as Ryan said, look, I'll run you through the presentation today, just a bit of a company update, sort of overview of who we are and what we're doing. And then look forward to taking Q&A following the presentation. So stepping through the company, look, we've listed in early July on the back of a takeover of DiscoverX. So Latitude 66 combined with DiscoverX to create the newly listed Latitude 66. And through this combination, what we feel we've created is a diversified precious and critical minerals company with locations into friendly mining jurisdictions in Australia and Finland. The main project for the company is the KSB Gold and Cobalt Project up in Northern Finland. That's a well-defined and well-advanced project that has 650,000 ounces of gold and 5,800 tonnes of cobalt. Importantly for us, that's at 85% at the indicated level. So a lot of confidence around that resource that we've currently got defined. And really what we're trying to do with that is we've got a pathway to get to upwards of sort of 1.5 million ounces by mid next year. And that's really through our targeting our exploration targets that we've got defined across our portfolio of land up there for the KSB project. And I'll step you sort of through that upcoming and current drilling program and how we think we're going to be able to achieve that 1.5 million ounces into next year. Other key things to really point out for us is really the ability for us to tap into a net zero project as well. Look, that's really on the back of the non-fossil fuel power supply of Finland. So they're currently at over 95% non-fossil fuel power at the power grid, really underpinned by the nuclear power plants that they've got up there, plus the hydrogen and wind power. So that's really important for us and something for us as part of our ESG credentials to be able to tap into that. Other aspects for us that we like to look at is the advanced nature of the project. As I said, it's at a really good definition from a resource point of view, but also a lot of test work's been done. So we've done a lot of met test work, engineering and pit designs for this project. So we're already at above a scoping study level for the project we've got currently. And I'll step you through sort of where that studies are at and where we're going to go in terms of the PFS this year as well. As I said, the near-term resource growth we've got as well. So a lot of opportunities to expand on the current resource. And then also just really stepping through the portfolio that we do have. So we're not just sort of the single asset, we've got multiple assets to help grow the value of the company. So as we step through the balanced portfolio that we do have in locations of Finland and Australia. So as I said, Finland, our flagship project, the KSB project, but we also have other projects up in Finland. Our second priority up there is the PSC project, which I'll step you through as well. But we also have several other projects up there all across greenstone belts within the highly prospective Northern Finland geological region. Then looking at the Australian assets, really the Australian assets came on the back of the merger with DiscoverX. So Latitude 66 has been a private company in Finland for about 6 or 7 years. And as I said, then we combined and merged with DiscoverX earlier this year. DiscoverX assets are located in Australia. We have the 3 assets, the Greater Duchess JV, Sylvania and Edgedina projects. The main asset is that Greater Duchess JV. That's a 17.5% free-carried interest joint venture with Carnaby Resources, which is a copper play up in Mount Isa. That's an advanced project. Scoping study has been released earlier this year. And there's a lot of exploration upside on that project as well. So we see a lot of value in that company and that project, and really looking forward to seeing where that value goes over the short term. We also have the Sylvania asset, which is a gold and base metals project in Pilbara, just south of Newman. That project is located about 15 kilometres to the west of Capricorn's Kaluinda operation. It has some highly prospective gold drill-ready targets across our areas that effectively run along strike from where Capricorn's currently drilling out their central lode areas as well. So another really good potential for value creation on that project. And then we have Edudina, which is another gold prospective project for us in the Latitude region in Western Australia. So we're really excited by these Australian assets. And really what we feel about those assets is to unlock value in the near term for us will be through likely corporate transactions. We want to maintain upside, but we'll definitely be looking through corporate processes, which are likely to be further joint ventures across Sylvania and Edudina, and a play on Greater Duchess. We feel there's definitely value to be unlocked on these assets moving forward. That allows us then to have a really clear focus on Finland, where we think we can unlock, as I said, further value through exploration and project development work up there on our KSB project. The corporate snapshot. So really where we're sitting, as I said, we came back on the boards and listed in early July. Look, it's been a bit of a turbulent market since early July, as everyone will be aware, and we haven't, shied away from that. We've definitely been in the thick of that. So we've currently got a market cap of about 20 million and had just over 5 million in the bank at the end of June. So enterprise value sort of sitting around that 15 to 16 million. And we think that's a really compelling valuation equation when you take into account the assets that we have in Australia, which we think there's significant value across those assets. And then you take into account the 650,000 ounces of gold, or about 720,000 gold equivalent ounces up in Finland. It really puts us on a compelling value across our peer group. So that's sort of something that we're looking forward to demonstrating and making that value equation more transparent with you, the markets, over the coming months. The board for us, as I said, look, this merger with DCX, didn't just provide us with quality assets where we feel can unlock value. It also allowed us to tap into quality personnel. So we have myself as the Managing Director, and then we have Thomas Hoyer, who is our chairman. Thomas is a Finnish national, resides just out of Helsinki in Finland. And Thomas was the previous MD of Latitude prior to myself. He's got experience in mining across Africa and Europe. Very well connected in with the Finnish government and the EU itself. Thomas has personally presented to the Finnish Parliament on half a dozen occasions in relation to Latitude 66. As I said, sort of really is a driving force up in Finland for us to progress this project forward through the appropriate channels. And then we have Toby Wellman, who's our technical director. So Toby was the MD of DCX prior to the merger, and now comes on as technical director for our company. Toby is a quality geologist with significant experience in gold and base metals. Importantly for us as well, Toby's had significant experience up in Scandinavia as well. So, a quality geologist like Toby with that experience up in Scandinavia is extremely hard to find. And so we're really excited having Toby on board. He's already driving forward with the geology department for us. And he's currently up in Finland as we've got a drilling campaign underway. So Toby's up there overseeing that drilling campaign as we speak now. And then we have Heath Helliwell. Heath was the chairman of DCX. Great background in Western Australia in the gold and base metals as well. He's been instrumental in companies like Capricorn, and currently sits on a couple of other ASX boards. And then we have Stefan Hagman. Stefan was the founding director of Latitude 66, heads up the geology department at UWA, and is globally renowned structural geologist. So, a really well-balanced board, a lot of technical experience from the geology side of things, but also commercial and project and in-country experience as well. Now, I just want to step you through the Finnish assets and dive into a bit of detail there. So, as I said, we've got our KSB project, which is our flagship project, but we have 4 other projects located in Northern Finland as well. Importantly, those projects are all located across greenstone belts. And as I said, we've been in country for about 7 years up in Finland, and effectively have sort of a first mover advantage up there. And we were previously the largest mining tenure holder up in Finland, and over the years have subsequently done exploration work and sort of redefined those areas. but have ensured that we've maintained significant portions of these greenstone belts. And where the KSB sits, that's we've got effectively a monopoly across that greenstone belt up there. Also, as I said, we've done a lot of test work, so we don't just have the resource. We've also done the test work on this project to move it into that development pathway. So that test work for us has been around the met and engineering, and that test work has, for us, defined a very straightforward flow sheet for our KSB gold and cobalt project. That flow sheet is effectively a gravity-fed CIL operation, very standard gold processing 3 million operation. We're getting about 60% recovery through a gravity circuit, and then through the CIL on flotation, we're able to get a gold doré out and a cobalt concentrate. Recoveries that we're getting through that as well are extremely good. So we're getting about 93% recovery for the gold and about 70% recovery for the cobalt concentrate as well. So a very straightforward flow sheet with excellent recoveries that sets itself up for a really very economic and high margin gold operation that has a really strategic angle with the cobalt. So when we talk about the gold and cobalt project, we're talking about 90% of the economics for the gold, and the cobalt's about 10%. But as I'll step you through, the cobalt adds a very strategic angle to us, especially up in Europe and in Finland itself as well. We've also got a very good local team in place. So we've got geologists up in Finland, plus also government relations and community relations teams as well, to ensure that we can move this project forward and allow it to move forward at the pace that it deserves for the exploration targets that we do have up there. Now, just touching on the strategic angle of the cobalt, as I said, look, gold-centric project, and really the economics are underpinned by that, and it's a very high margin gold operation. But really, we're really excited by the cobalt, and that really is giving us a head start up in Europe. So cobalt sits as a strategic mineral under the Critical Materials Act. And what does that mean? So one of the key requirements under EU's CRMA policy is a requirement to have 10% of EU's material that is consumed to be extracted domestically. So really, at the moment, about 1,500 tonnes of cobalt is extracted from the EU, and that's all extracted from within Finland itself. That accounts for about 3% of the consumption within the EU. What we're looking at doing is producing about 100,000 ounces of gold per annum and about up to 1,500 tonnes of cobalt. So we'll double the supply of cobalt within the EU, but we still won't be hitting that, the EU still won't be able to achieve that 10% marker that it has. So cobalt is very critical up in the EU if they want to hit these benchmarks. What we're then able to do is progress for a strategic project status. What that does is put a maximum permitting timeframe around your project. So under the CRMA policy, if you can get strategic project status, it's a maximum 27-month permitting process. It also provides additional strategic funding. So there's funding avenues that we can have for project work plus construction work. It also opens up other doors for us, and one of those doors is with a European OEM. So we're in discussions with a large European OEM for offtake and also investment at the head company as well. So these are all very strategic angles for us to help us push this project forward, and where we see creates significantly more value than just the gold project itself. Now, Finland itself, as I said, look, it is a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. Currently, 40 operating mines in Finland. It's also got extremely good geology. So the largest gold operation, Kittilä, which is owned by Agnico, is in Finland. That produces about 240,000 ounces of gold per annum. There's also Ikkari, which is an extremely large gold project, which was discovered by River Resources a few years ago. That's getting upwards of 5 million ounces now. You've also got other majors in there. So Anglo's got their Sakatti project, which is a nickel, copper, cobalt project. But you've also got BHP, who've just done the JV with King Rose up in Finland for an extremely large joint venture as part of their BHP Explorer program. You've got Rio Tinto, First Quantum. Effectively, most of the majors in the mining game are up in Finland now. Also, the other key factor for us is the downstream processing. So Finland is the largest processor of cobalt outside of China. It's got 4 going on 5 cobalt refineries in country. As you can see on that map on the side there, where we are located, we're about 250 km to the north of Terrafame, which is a large government, that's effectively state-owned mining and nickel mining and cobalt mining and refining operation. So we're in discussions with these refiners for the ability to process our cobalt concentrate into a cobalt sulfate, which would be battery grade, and hopefully tap into the EV transition that we are having up in Europe. Now, touching on and diving into a bit of detail on the project itself, as I said, we've got a very well-defined 650,000 ounces of gold at 2.7 grams. That's all effectively at surface. So maximum depth we're going down to at the moment is 300 meters. Effectively, we're getting mineralization more or less at surface. We've got 5,800 tons of cobalt within that resource as well. There's also a halo effect, so we have a lot of cobalt that sits outside the current resource that we can continue to target. As you see on the map on the right there, the resource is defined in our K North project area. We also have our K South project area, which has a lot of exploration upside, which I'll step you through. Also importantly, this project is located about 15 kilometers from Kuusamo, which is a major regional city within Finland, which has, regional airports, a large town, hospitals, schools, so ability for us to tap straight into the population. It's also got heavy on the infrastructure, so a lot of road power networks in place, so we can tap straight into the power grid, and we can also, there's also all-weather roads around there that's been supporting the timber industry, which is the dominant industry in Northern Finland. All the current resource is open at depth and along strike as well. So we can expand on the current resource, and we'll be doing that resource step out drilling through the K1, K2 and K3 over the coming months as well. What I want to just step through here is the K1 deposit. That's the majority of our current resource. As you can see through there on the cross section, it is open at depth. So we have modelled EM plates down at depth below our current mineralization. They're target areas that we'll go back and likely target back end or early into next year. It is also open along strike as well. So there's target areas that we've drilled and waiting on assays around K1, where we think we've got further step outs along this mineralization trend. What you can see in here is there are really high grade zones. So we are getting over 20 meters at 98 grams, as you can see there. So these are significant high grade zones within this mineralization. So very much an open pit design at the moment, but we will trend into underground mining as well. And as I said, we've done a lot of that test work to be able to support underground mining as well. K South, as I said, look, that is really our focus at the moment in terms of our exploration upside and building on the resource. We've done 2 drilling campaigns through K South already, and we've got the drill rig on site at the moment, currently drilling out K9. They'll move on to K8 and likely get to K10 as part of this current drill campaign. As you can see, we're getting significant intercepts through each of those prospective areas. So upwards of over 20 meters at sort of 2.4 and 13 meters at over 6 grams. We're also getting large cobalt intercepts there as well. So 50 meters at 0.5% cobalt, which is effectively equivalent to about 3 grams of gold. So significantly large intercepts and high grade areas as well. This is a region where we think, we can easily build on the current resource that we have. And that's why we think we've got the ability to get to that 1.5 million ounces throughout next year. And we're very confident on that. In terms of the exploration strategy, as you can see on here, the EM and the conductors, what we've got at the moment is a really extremely high hit ratio of mineralization on these conductors. And we've got over 40 of these conductors to target, so drill ready targets down in the K South region. So we think there's a significant ability to have a multi-million ounce project in this area. PSB, so as I said, the PSB project is our second priority project up in Finland. It's located about 150 km to the west of our KSB project. It's earlier stages, obviously. We haven't done any drilling through here, but we've done a lot of geochem and geophysics. Some of that geochem results that we've announced recently is over 130 grams of gold in boulders and 10% copper. So significant gold and copper potential throughout this region. Importantly, one of the a recently listed company, Mawson Finland, listed on TSX last week. They've got that million ounce equivalent project just to the west of us. So, a comparable sort of size to our KSB project. and that's listed, as I said, on TSX, and that's got a market cap currently of just over 50 million as well. So it's a good comparable to us of where we think we should be getting to in terms of valuation equation. And look, the program that we've got over the next 6 to 12 months, as I said, we've got a really clearly defined strategy, and that is to build out that resource. And we've got drill ready targets and exploration targets to be able to achieve our targeted growth. We'll also be doing pre-feasibility study and kicking that off. As I said, we've done a lot of test work around the project today, and we'll be kicking off the pre-feasibility study, which we primarily around the metallurgical test work for the K South drilling, and also further baseline study work as well. And look, then this is just around our Carnaby resource. As I said, that's our major asset in Australia. We're excited by that. We've got a 7.5% free carried interest in that project. So there's no cash going out the door from our point of view. And we can really, take the valuation right, if you like, on this project. I think it's got a lot of potential on that asset. Located extremely close to Glencore's copper operations up in Queensland. It's a very low capital project to get off the ground. So we think that's got a lot of potential over the next 6 to 12 months as well, and we'll look to take the journey with that valuation. And then Sylvania, as I said, look, where it's located extremely close to Capricorn's Kalamunda project, a long strike from where they're currently drilling out further exploration potential. It's also got the Prairie Downs base metals or zinc lead project there as well, with a clearly defined resource across there. So we think there's a lot of potential there, not just in the gold, but the base metals as well. And it's also got iron ore potential. So another project for us to seek to get some valuation realization over the next couple of quarters. So look, hopefully what I'll try to set out for you is that we think we've got a really promising and exciting project up in Finland with the gold and cobalt project, that we've got a clear strategy to be able to build out that resource and put it on that development pathway and get into production by this decade, by the end of this decade. But we've also got a lot of other valuation realization assets within our portfolio, and we'll look to transact on sort of Australian assets as they come together, but also look to expand on our Finland portfolio as well. So looking forward to bringing a significant amount of news flow over the next few months to the market, and delivering on the strategy that we've set out. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Grant. Really appreciate the presentation. We'll open the floor up to questions now. So if there are any questions to be submitted that you want me to ask Grant, please just ask them using Q&A. I will just kick us off with a couple. So obviously you have just spent a little bit of time just then exploring how important cobalt is to the energy transition, especially in Europe at the moment, given the legislated jurisdiction that it's in. But when it comes explicitly to the KSB project and its longer-term profitability, how important is the cobalt going to be?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Look, as I said, the cobalt sits at about 10% of the economics, if you like, of the project. Currently, what we've got defined.
Yeah.
But strategically, it's critical, and critical, not just for Finland but the EU, but really in Finland itself. As I said, Finland being the largest refiner of cobalt outside of China already is strategic in terms of the cobalt refining capabilities within Finland. So for the Finnish government, it's very critical that they keep the ability to have this extraction of cobalt within country. We're in discussions with the refiners in country. We've also had the Finnish government arm of mining, so the Finnish Minerals Group. They've done a DD on our project and effectively kicked that off from a technical point of view. So strategically, we're really well positioned to be able to push this project forward and push further EU extracted cobalt into the market, which is critical not just for Finland but for the EU.
Okay. And just moving on there, focusing on the EU, as Finland, being a mining jurisdiction, right, and being so heavily focused on, having clean energy, you'd expect there'd be some pushback for some of these more invasive mines. How is Finland as a mining jurisdiction collectively when it comes to getting permissions and having government back support?
Yeah, look, it's a good question and something that does come up a lot for us. And what we've got here is, Finland is a mining jurisdiction, 40 operating mines, and there is a permitting process to go through. key things up in Finland is the water, and ensuring that you've got, you know, I suppose policies and the procedures in place to maintain sort of water quality. What we've done is set up buffer zones around waterways to ensure that we've got step-offs from those waterways. We also have buffer zones around other sensitive areas. So Natura 2000 is sort of a nature reserve legislation up in Europe. We've made sure we've got buffer zones around those areas. So we've allowed ourselves the best chance to get this project up and running. And we've also then looked at different areas where we can locate our process plants. So we've got areas that are, you know, in industrial parks or sort of old quarry sites. So areas where, you know, it's already been cleared and the water based on study work has already been done. And so we could put our process plant and our talent facilities in these sort of regions, and really does streamline the permitting process then for us.
Okay. Let's just focus now on the actual economics of the project. Obviously, you know, you stated previously in the presentation, you guys are around 5.5 mil sitting in the books with cash. Now, when it comes to building out this project, expanding and getting to the stage where they're ready for production or your production has started, when it comes to financing this over the next kind of 2-3 years, obviously the 5.5 mil isn't going to be enough. Are you planning on maintaining, you know, being able to maintain these projects through building out other deals and opportunities with the other miners that pre-exist in the market, or are you planning on potentially going to the market for a cap raise or potentially using debt financing?
Yeah, no, look, what we're doing, and as I sort of alluded to, is we're looking at the Australian assets, and we feel like that's an asset base for us to be able to pull out some liquidity. You know, we want to do that in the smartest possible way and maintain upside on those assets as much as possible. But in the short term, we feel that's a definite funding, you know, I suppose pathway for us. The other thing I sort of alluded to was the OEM. So again, it's another party. It's a party we've been in discussions with for about 18 months, and that is for you know, investment and potential prepayment as well. So that's another funding opportunity for us for the project. And then there's obviously the market, but we feel that we can provide funding that's non-dilutive, definitely in the short term. But there's also EU government grants as well. So there's grant funding that we'll look to apply for that can support our study work. So effectively, they can fund or significantly fund the pre-feasibility study, for instance, but also exploration work as well. So there's also grants that we're looking at locking down over the next few months that will assist in exploration work as well through EU. So multiple avenues for us to secure funding and not just requiring to go back to the capital markets.
Yeah, of course. Now, speaking of that grant funding, is that grant funding purely linked to the cobalt exposure that you guys have?
Yeah, well, it's a mixture. I mean, the EU is definitely trying to push mining generally up there at the moment, but the cobalt is critical for us. That is the aspect that really gets us, you know, opens the door for this funding. But it's also the ESG credentials of the project as well. So as much as it's that critical raw materials, its ability to have that ESG angle, and as I said, the ability for us to tap into that non-fossil fuel power supply from Finland allows us to set our project up really well globally. There's not too many other projects globally that are in mining-friendly jurisdictions that can tap into effectively sort of, you know, 100% non-fossil fuel power. So that really sets our project up nicely to allow us to tap into these funding options.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that clarification there. Now, just obviously on the topic of the KSB project, is there anything you can announce to market today regarding potential production rates?
Yeah, look, we've got targeted rates. So obviously, you know, we've done some work around that, and we think, you know, our target should be going for a sort of a 100,000 ounce gold production per year, and upwards of 1,500 tonnes of cobalt. So look, that's a target we have, and I think really that target for us is on the back of what we think the resource is there, and it can support that. But we want to make sure we've got a project that can run for sort of 10 plus years, right? So we've got that resource base to support that sort of annual production rate, and we think that 1.5 million ounce target supports sort of that production rate for a sort of upwards of 10-year initial project mine life. So that's where our target is, and sort of that's where our strategy is based around, and what we'll try and deliver over the next 12 months.
All right, well, brilliant. Thank you for that one. And just one last one to finish us off. Obviously, you mentioned targeting strategic joint ventures with the Australian assets as a way to further fund the European assets. Is there anything developing with those assets at the moment right now, other than the one, obviously, where you have a percentage with in Queensland?
Yeah, look, we've got multiple discussions on each of those assets basically at the moment. So obviously there's not much I can disclose, but I can definitely say that there's discussions being had, and we're comfortable where those discussions are currently at, and there's, you know, we're looking forward to, once we can cement some of these processes down, bringing that news to the market.
All right, brilliant. Thank you for that update there. Well, before we just wrap things up, Grant, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Look, I think just follow us. I think, you know, as I said, I think we've got a very compelling valuation at the moment. We're excited with the potential and the news flow that we're going to have. We're going to have constant news flow throughout the rest of this year. As I said, we've got drilling underway at the moment. Those results will come out, but we've also got the corporate plays across the assets as well. So look, jump on board, and happy to also answer any questions from any of the shareholders at any time.
Legendary. Well, thank you very much for your time and expertise this morning, Grant, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.